Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernest Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Another week in the NFL season is coming around the corner. Week 13 to be exact. The Thanksgiving week had some awesome NFL action. There were a lot of great games. Hope, again, everyone had a happy Thanksgiving weekend. But still, looking at this next week in the NFL, it is getting more and more important because the playoffs are coming around the corner, and all these teams, especially the ones that are in the hunt, they need to get some big wins down the stretch of the season if they want to make the playoffs. But I'm going to break down and predict every single Week 13 game in the NFL this season, so let's get into it. On Thursday Night Football, we've got a pretty big matchup here with the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Dallas Cowboys on Prime Video. Seattle's been slipping a bit lately. They're now 6-5 on the season, and they could not get a win last week against the San Francisco 49ers. Geno Smith's been banged up a bit, but he's still having a solid year, but he has to take care of the football a little bit better. He's got all the weapons he needs around him, and Seattle has a pretty good defense, and they need to step up on both sides of the ball if they want to get some wins. The problem, though, is that this game's on the road. It's not at home. Dak Prescott's playing great football. The Cowboys are now 8-3, and they look to be playing better football now than they were a few weeks ago, which is very key for the Dallas Cowboys to gain confidence down the stretch of the season to see if they can make a playoff push this year. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Seattle Seahawks 28-17. I think Dallas at home will be a little bit too much for the Seattle Seahawks, who have been struggling a little bit lately. Then to move on to the Sunday matchups, you've got the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the Tennessee Titans. The Colts are 6-5, and the Titans are 4-7. Tennessee, they did get a win last week over the Carolina Panthers, but everybody's beating the Carolina Panthers right now because they are an absolute mess. The Colts, they've looked a bit better lately. Shane Steichen's done a good job as head coach there this year. Gardner Minshew has filled in admirably for Anthony Richardson, maybe proving that he possibly could be a starter eventually in the NFL on a regular basis if he can keep the turnovers to a minimum. Indy's defense has been pretty solid this year as well. It is on the road, and Derrick Henry is a tough load to stop, but Tennessee's passing attack with Will Levis is still not good enough for them to get the win. In my opinion, I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to get a road win over the Tennessee Titans 21-14. Then you got the Los Angeles Chargers, who cannot get a win, and they need a win this week if they want to stay in the playoff race. They're traveling to the anemic New England Patriots, who are 2-9 this year. New England lost to the New York Giants last week because they missed a field goal at the end of the game, and New England, they're already out of the playoff race. They'd have to win out, and I still don't even think they would get it anyway. The Chargers are 4-7. They're on the fringes of the playoff, and they need to get some wins now to have any shot at the playoffs at the end of the season. Justin Herbert, he's putting up good numbers, but it does not matter if you're not winning, and Brandon Staley, his hot seat is hotter than it's ever been by far in the NFL. He needs a win. Herbert needs a win, and I believe that the Chargers are going to get it just because the New England Patriots have been playing so bad this year. But it is very hard to trust the Chargers, but I will go with them to win 24-14 in Foxborough. Then you got the Detroit Lions traveling to the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are slipping. They're 5-6, but they're still in the playoff race because the NFC South is abysmal. It's going to be between the New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Bucks, or the Atlanta Falcons to see which team can win that division to make the playoffs. Detroit, they are 8-3 on the season, but they lost to the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving Day. That was a very shocking loss, but Detroit on both sides of the ball is better. Jared Goff, even though he had 3 fumbles in the Packers game, I think he'll take care of the ball better, even though the Saints do have a good defense. So if they rush him, Detroit could have another game where they turn the ball over a couple times and they could slip up and lose. But Derek Carr has not gotten enough on offense this season for the Saints, and they're going to struggle to put up enough points. I will go with the Detroit Lions to bounce back and beat the New Orleans Saints 28-17. Then you have the Atlanta Falcons traveling to the New York Jets. Atlanta is 5-6 on the season, and New York is 4-7 on the year. And Aaron Rodgers has said repeatedly that he could return this season for the Jets if they are in playoff contention, and it's not looking like they're going to be in playoff contention because they keep on losing. They are a far cry from where they were at the beginning of the season. Zach Wilson's regressed. The third-string quarterback behind Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, has struggled as well trying to fill in for Zach Wilson. If New York had a better offense, then they would have a shot to win this game because it's not like Atlanta's a juggernaut either, but Desmond Ridder has been playing better football than any quarterback for the New York Jets lately, and Atlanta's defense is competent enough. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to move to 6-6 on the year and stay ahead in the NFC South race and beat the New York Jets 17-14. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kyler Murray's back, and he's actually playing decent football. He's using his legs to his team's advantage, and his passing looks to be fairly solid, but Arizona's defense isn't good enough right now to stop many teams in the NFL NFL. And Pittsburgh, after they fired Matt Canada, their offense had over 400 yards for the first time in 59 games in the NFL. It took 59 games and finally firing Matt Canada to get it done. But Pittsburgh has an offense. Kenny Pickett is showing signs of life, being able to throw the ball downfield. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Arizona Cardinals 24-14. But if Matt Canada was still the offensive coordinator, then the Steelers could have definitely lost this game. Then you got the Miami Dolphins traveling to the Washington Commanders. Washington has fallen apart lately. They're now 4-8 on the year. They look like possibly they could be a playoff team at the beginning of the season, but now their team is struggling. Their defense has been bad, so they fired defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio. Eric Bieniemy is trying to get Sam Howell going this season, and he has good performances, but then he follows it up with bad performances. Miami's too explosive all around, Tua Tagovailoa, and all of their weapons on the offense side of the ball. They're going to be able to run up the score. I think that they're going to beat the Washington Commanders 31-17 for Miami to move to 9-3 on the season. Then you got the Denver Broncos traveling to the Houston Texans. This game has the potential to be one of the best games in the NFL this week. Denver, they were able to get a big win last week over the Cleveland Browns to move to 6-5 in the year after they had a 1-5 start to the season, whereas the Houston Texans, they fell agonizingly short against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, losing that game at the end. C.J. Stroud did everything he possibly could to get the win, but his field goal kicker, it hit the front bar of the upright, and they were not able to send the game to overtime. But I do think that the Houston Texans are a really solid team this year. In Denver, they're playing much better as well. If it was in Mile High, I would go with Russell Wilson and the Broncos to get the win, and it's hard to bet against them because they have won 5 in a row. But C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be determined after that loss to Jacksonville to bounce back and keep the Houston Texans in the playoff race. I'm going to go with Houston to beat Denver 28-27 in a very tight game. Then you got the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4:05. Carolina is a dumpster fire right now. They are one of the biggest messes in the NFL. David Tepper's out there trying to make excuses for what's going on with the team. Frank Reich has been fired. They fired Josh McCown and Deuce Staley as well as the quarterback coach and running back coach respectively. Carolina's offense has not been able to get going this season. Bryce Young has not had a lot of success this year, and a lot of people believe that the Panthers should have taken C.J. Stroud number 1. I think Bryce Young still has the potential to succeed in the NFL, but if the Panthers do not get some talent around him and some better coaching, and if David Tepper can't start making the right moves, then the Panthers are going to keep on losing. The Bucs aren't a great team this year, and Baker Mayfield has been in and out of the lineup, but I do believe that the Bucs will beat the Carolina Panthers 21-14 for the Bucs to stay in the NFC South race, just because the Carolina Panthers are that bad right now. Then you got the Cleveland Browns traveling to the Los Angeles Rams. The Browns are 7-4. They're in the playoffs right now, but they do not look as good lately with Deshaun Watson out. Now you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson possibly out as well with a concussion. Will the Browns go with Joe Flacco or P.J. Walker at quarterback? Who knows? But either way you go, Cleveland is starting to slip a bit because of injuries and the fact maybe they were a bit lucky at the beginning of the year. I don't think it was all up because Deshaun Watson did have some good performances, but now that they're not 100%, Los Angeles has a prime opportunity to get back to 500 on the season. Matthew Stafford's been banged up as well, and the Rams haven't been super healthy, but since Cleveland started to trail downward and the Rams got a big win last week over the Cardinals, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams to beat the Cleveland Browns 24-21. Then you've got possibly the game of the week in the NFL. You've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling on the road to the Philadelphia Eagles. San Francisco got a big win last week at the Seattle Seahawks, whereas the Philadelphia Eagles, they beat the Buffalo Bills in a thriller on their own field in overtime. That was a fantastic game, and Josh Allen played his heart out, but unfortunately for the Bills, they fell short. The Bills are starting to turn into the Los Angeles Chargers at this rate, but the Philadelphia Eagles, they are tough to beat at home, and Jalen Hurts, even though he's been banged up somewhat, he's still running all over the field. He's passing the ball at a high level. They got a fantastic team all around on defense and on offense. San Francisco, though, they've been bouncing back after that 3-game losing streak. Now they're on a 3-game winning streak. Brock Purdy's back to playing at a high level, and they're healthy with Deebo Samuel back, Brandon Ayuk playing at a high level, and Christian McCaffrey is putting up some of the best stats of any running back in the NFL. This is going to be a fantastic game, but this is one of those games that whoever has the home field advantage, it might have been the difference. If it was at San Francisco, I'd probably go with them, but I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the San Francisco 49ers 34-31 on their own field in the game of the week in the NFL. Then you got the Kansas City Chiefs Chiefs traveling to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. At first glance, you would think Kansas City would have this game in the bag. They're 8-3, whereas Green Bay's 5-6. But the Packers got a momentum-building win last week on Thanksgiving Day, beating the Detroit Lions. They're wanting to get back in the playoff race, so I think that they're going to give it 110% in this game. Kansas City's been slipping a bit lately, but they were able to beat the Las Vegas Raiders fairly convincingly last week. And Patrick Mahomes, he's playing pretty good football, even though he has had a couple games where he's thrown a couple picks. But I think Kansas City, even though their wide receiver core struggled a bit, they still got Travis Kelce, and I think their defense will be able to slow down Jordan Love just enough. I'll go with the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Green Bay Packers 28-14. And then to move on to the Monday Night Football game, you got the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cincinnati's season is collapsing right in front of their eyes. Since Joe Burrow is now out for the season, Cincinnati does not look like themselves at all whatsoever. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, and they only put up 10 points. It's going to be very hard for them to go on the road and knock off the Jacksonville Jaguars, who got a big win last week over the Houston Texans on the road. Now they're back at home, and Trevor Lawrence, some people criticized his play early in the season, but he looks to be rounding back into form, and their defense is playing fairly opportunistic. Since it's at home and the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow, I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Cincinnati Bengals 28-14 for Jacksonville to move to 9-3 and the Bengals to fall to 5-7. Now, those are the Week 13 games in the NFL and all my picks for every single game. The Bills, the Bears, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Giants, and the Ravens are all on a bye this week, and some of these teams really need to get some rest to possibly help themselves regroup to get back in the playoff race. The Bills are now 500 on the season, so they're really struggling. We'll see what they do out of their bye. The Vikings just lost to the Chicago Bears in a wild loss on Monday Night Football, and now they're at 500 on the season. So it's crazy. The only team that's doing really well going into their bye week this week is the Baltimore Ravens. They look pretty solid in their win over the Los Angeles Chargers, but it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as we get closer and closer to the playoffs in the NFL. Some of these teams are really desperate and they need a win. We'll see if they can get it, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about all my picks for the Week 13 games in the NFL, which game you are looking forward to the most, and what your picks are for every single game in the Week 13 slate of the NFL. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.